Many have heard myths about the mysterious Yeti, or seen films about the giant ape, King Kong. In some pseudoscientific circles, there are also publications claiming that our planet was once inhabited by giants. It seems to us that all these fictional stories have real and entirely scientific roots. In today's episode, we're going to talk about the largest primate in the history of the Earth, Gigantopithecus. You'll learn how this amazing giant was discovered and who its ancestor is. We'll also talk about whether Gigantopithecus could have met our immediate ancestors. According to scientists, Gigantopithecus could grow up to 3 or even 4 meters tall. They weighed between 300 and 550 kilograms. Different species of these giant apes lived from the end of the Miocene to the end of the Pleistocene in what is now India, China, Thailand, and Vietnam. The ages of the Gigantopithecus remains studied so far range from 9 million to 100,000 years. Mostly, scientists have found teeth and fragments of the lower jaw of these giant primates. But there's also descriptions of a femur and part of a humerus, which are also thought to belong to a Gigantopithecus species. There are currently 2 species known to belong to this genus of great apes. These are Gigantopithecus bilaspernsis and Gigantopithecus black. The former appeared in China between 9 and 6 million years ago, while the latter appeared in northern India around 1 million years ago. Some researchers also identify a separate species whose name sounds like Gigantopithecus gigantus. Gigantopithecus was originally portrayed as a proportionally enlarged orangutan. Recent studies have shown that this is not far from the truth. A 2019 study of DNA isolated from the tooth of a Gigantopithecus that lived about 1,900,000 years ago in China's Chuafan cave showed that these giants and modern orangutans are closely related. Their genealogical branches diverged from a common ancestor about 10 to 12 million years ago. This common ancestor is thought to be Civipithecus. Despite these massive descendants, Civipithecus itself was not particularly large. It was about 1.5 meters tall, and these primitive hominids resembled modern orangutans in both structure and lifestyle. Both Civipithecus and Gigantopithecus belong to the subfamily Ponginae. Today, there's only one species in this subfamily, the orangutan. Civipithecus lived in the humid forests of India, Pakistan, Nepal, and possibly Turkey and Kenya. The name of this prehistoric hominid translates as Shiva's monkey. The age of the fossils available to scientists ranges from 12 to 8.5 million years. Genetic studies show that the paths of the ancestors of Civipithecus and other apes, including humans, diverged somewhere between 17 and 26 million years ago. Despite the relatively large number of Civipithecus bones that have been found and described, there are still many mysteries surrounding this ancient primate. Its teeth are very similar in structure to those of modern orangutans, but the structure of its pelvic bone suggests that Civipithecus had some features of apes. Until recently, many scientists cannot be sure whether the similar structure of teeth and jaws was a sign of the relationship between Civipithecus, Gigantopithecus, and orangutans. It may simply be a consequence of a similar diet. But recently, a description of the pelvic bones of Civipithecus, discovered in 1990 on the Patwar Plateau in Pakistan, has been published that puts everything into perspective. Despite its monkey-like appearance, the pelvis of Civipithecus, which turned out to be a female weighing between 20 and 25 kilos, was very massive. Its structure showed that this lady moved very carefully, not to say deliberately, along the branches. This is exactly what modern orangutans do. They're able to hold on to branches with all 4 limbs and don't make jumps or sudden movements when they move. But even the results of this study cannot fully confirm the theory of the relationship between Civipithecus and orangutans, or the correctness of the conclusions about the origin of Gigantopithecus. It's just that most scientists tend to judge the degree of relationship by the structure of the skull, and in this case, the similarity of teeth and jaws. But science does not stand still, and as new discoveries are made, all the secrets will be revealed. But for now, the chain from Civipithecus to orangutans to Gigantopithecus is the most likely. Even more interesting is the way Gigantopithecus moved. Despite the supposed external similarity to orangutans, such massive apes would not have spent much time in the trees. Only the thickest branches could support such a weight. So most scientists agree that these giants spent most of their time on the ground, like modern gorillas. The history of the study of Gigantopithecus goes back just over 100 years. The new primate species was first described by German paleontologist Gustav von Koenigswald. In 1935, he bought 2 large teeth that were being sold as dragon teeth at a market in Hong Kong. The scientists found an external similarity to the teeth of primates, including humans, but these teeth were much larger. On average, the corner teeth of Gigantopithecus found so far are up to 2.5 centimeters long. Based on these teeth, von Koenigswald described a new species of primate and gave it an appropriate name, which translates into Russian as giant ape. The scientist then began to search for similar teeth from traders. By 1939, he was able to buy and study several more pieces from the southern provinces of China, but the outbreak of war prevented him from continuing his search. The scientist was arrested and spent several years in prison. It was not until 1952 that he was able to present the results of his research to the world at the American Museum of Natural History. Between 1955 and 1963, Chinese anthropologists discovered more than 1,000 teeth and several jaw fragments of Gigantopithecus at 15 new sites. Surprisingly, the remains of the predominantly herbivorous Gigantopithecus were most commonly found in caves. There were also a large number of bones of different animals next to them. Some scientists have suggested that Gigantopithecus may have been an omnivorous animal, sometimes supplementing its diet with meat. At such a large size, this could hardly have been a problem. But this theory did not answer the question of why no skulls or other bones were found in the caves, only teeth. One theory is that porcupines were to blame. In order for their spines to grow, these animals need to constantly replenish the calcium and other mineral reserves in their bodies. They could drag any bones they found into the caves and gnaw on them. Harder teeth were not to their taste, so they were preserved. Traces of porcupine teeth on other bones found in caves are a logical confirmation of this hypothesis, but the teeth of Gigantopithecus, when carefully analyzed, have been able to tell scientists a lot. This is mainly about their diet. Indirectly, however, some results also speak about the reasons for their extinction. Despite the presence of massive jaws and powerful teeth, Gigantopithecus showed little preference for coarse plant food. Although some researchers once thought that Gigantopithecus's main food was bamboo shoots, for which it actively competed with the panda. But later studies failed to confirm this theory, and the panda switch to an exclusive bamboo diet came much later than Gigantopithecus's extinction. Traces of tooth decay have been found on the teeth of Gigantopithecus. This suggests that they enjoyed eating sweet fruits. Microscopic traces on the teeth of one of the Gigantopithecus showed that it had eaten the fruit of a mulberry plant just before it died, while the other had eaten grass leaves. Traces on the teeth of these giant forest monkeys also told scientists what their habitat looked like in ancient times. Apparently, Gigantopithecus lived in wet, cool jungles interspersed with dry grassy plains. Gradually, climate change led to a reduction in forest cover and an expansion of steppes. In the case of our ancestors, this played a crucial role in their evolution, but Gigantopithecus seems to have clung onto tradition until the very end. As a result, they were unable to adapt to the changes. The disappearance of their usual food and habitat led to a population decline and the eventual extinction of these mysterious giants. The question of whether humans could have influenced their extinction has now been answered. Representatives of the Homo sapiens genus took their first steps towards colonizing the planet during the last millennia of Gigantopithecus's existence. At that time, they had not yet reached the territory of Southeast Asia, but Pithecanthropus and its descendants were already living in these forests. Gigantopithecus could have met them, as well as our ancestors Homo erectus, the erect human. But for such giants, tigers would have been more of a threat than primitive humans. Another important question still puzzles scientists. How intelligent were these primates? Scientific publications regularly mention the simplest tools and large weapons. They would have been perfect for Gigantopithecus, but despite the relatively large size of the brain, it's not very large in relation to the body size of these forest giants. But who knows? Under different circumstances, our distant ancestors might have had another rival for the right to be called the dominant species on the planet. As always, we're deeply grateful to the viewers who make it through to the end of each episode. If you're interested in stories about the discovery and study of extinct creatures, as well as their origins and evolution, the Dinosaur Age channel also features videos on the history of the development of human society and its interactions with wildlife.